Welcome back to Bengal and Beyond, episode 4. Today is the 20th of February, 2024. I'm Sravanti, and these are my co-presenters, Misha and Kazi. Unfortunately, Zishan was not able to make it this week and sends his apologies. Don't worry, ladies, we'll have him back as soon as possible. But instead, I have a treat for you. Joining us here today as our fourth apocalyptic horse is Owais Sadat. Owais Sadat, a US Pakistani national, is a former World Bank staff. He represented the bank in 6 countries, and his last assignments covered Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Mr. Sadat is an economist by training and has 32 years of development experience spanning 5 regions of the world. He has also served as deputy head of the World Bank office in Bangladesh. Currently, he lives in DC, Washington, DC. Hi, Uncle. Welcome to our podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Should we also mention his other relationship with us?
If you must, yeah.
Well, it's all right. Go ahead.
For clarity purposes, I think you should.
For clarity purposes, Owais is also Misha and my stepfather. I know that it seems like we're making this a family podcast, but the truth is, it's not our fault that our family has so many cool people.
Talented people.
Talented people.
So basically, this is just like the movie, three men and a baby.
Who's the baby? You?
Obviously me, if you guys are all related and yeah. Don't gang up on me.
I won't, but I can't promise Misha won't.
I can handle Misha, but I'll have to be polite with Uncle, so it will be.
All right.
No, please.
Hopefully it won't get to that point.
Please feel free to say anything.
All right. So, yes. So Uncle is also our stepfather, Misha and mine. And so we're family. I guess we all have very similar interests, hence we're doing this. So let me just give you a very brief history of Pakistan. Last Thursday, Pakistan held its general elections in which the PTI, or Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party, or more accurately, its allied parties, won the majority of the seats in parliament. The elections were marred with protests mobilized by the PTI, claiming that the election results were being rigged. The leader of the PTI is former cricketer and Playboy socialite Imran Khan. In 2022, Imran Khan, the then sitting Prime Minister of Pakistan, was ousted from parliament in a no-confidence vote. Khan was replaced by Shahbaz Sharif, leader of the Pakistan Muslim League and brother of 3-time Prime Minister of Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif. In May of 2023, Imran Khan was arrested and eventually convicted on charges of corruption. Being convicted effectively banned him from being in political office for the next 5 years. As a result, many people from the PTI stood independently in these elections and won. So, Uncle, can you tell us a little more about Imran Khan's rise to power and how he managed to change his image from, the Playboy to what he is now?
Yeah, well, I'll say things in annotated form because it's a very long story and I don't want to monopolize too much of the time. So I'll just give you just bullet points, or I will at least let you know sound bites on this one. Now, I see only A here. I don't see you. Basically, this party, the PTI party, was founded in 1996. So Imran Khan, for almost about 16 years, was in wilderness. He had only one single vote, his own. And that too, he won, I think, 6-8 years. And people didn't even believe in the kinds of things he was trying to promote and others. So he came first on the political radar screen of Pakistan as a third candidate, seriously in 2013. So 1996 till 2013, he was a nobody. In 2013, the army started thinking of what is called political engineering. which I guess is a very dangerous thing to do, because there is somebody in the back room who's trying to manipulate and engineer politics. And they thought that perhaps the time has come to introduce a new face, and they basically backed him up in that particular election. Now, in that election, he did get a few National Assembly seats, but he basically rode on the shoulders of the army. The army was supporting him, and they were the ones who were promoting him because they were a little unhappy with the old guard, which had begun to break ranks with them on various issues. It has to be, as a backdrop, one has to keep in mind that in Pakistan, most of the politics is driven by the army. And it still is got an oversized role in the politics of the country. That is the background to it. So in 2013, he took control of one of the provinces in the frontier, but he could not win enough seats at the national level. So it was in 2018, 5 years later, that the army threw its full support behind him, and they arm twisted a lot of independents and other kinds of people who were called electables to back him up. So they said, if you want to stay, I wouldn't say stay alive, but if you want to prosper, you have to support this guy. And it was known that he is the army's candidate. So he won enough seats to make a government in 2018. Plus, he had governments both in the Punjab and the frontier, which are the two largest provinces. So he was very much in the saddle. He was there, he ruled for 3.5 years. And then there was usual, because the margins were not that large, there was usual push and pull, the political push and pull. And so he finally, there was a vote of no confidence against him. And he lost that vote of no confidence. And he went into the opposition. What he did was that he also accelerated the resignation of his party from the two largest provinces. So he said, okay, if I'm not in the center, I won't have his ace card was that he was going to resign and all the assemblies will be dissolved. He'll go back to the people, he'll appeal to them, and he'll come with a larger majority. That was what his plan was. But once he had dismissed the governments also and resigned, he found that the dynamic started working in the sense that the interim government, or the government which had taken over, was strong enough not to dislodge him. So he went to the judiciary and stuff like that. That's the background. He went to the judiciary, tried to get some resolution. One of his trump cards was that he kept on saying that the United States has got him out of the job. And they are the ones who have managed the soft coup against him, because he was very much against them on their Afghan policy and his going to Russia. He went to Russia at the day the Ukraine war started. It was a very bad sense of timing. He was there, he spent 2 hours with Putin, and that was the last meeting. And Putin, being crafty the way he is, he used him considerably for projecting his own image on the world map. But then he got the Western powers completely against him. And so he conflated the two, that his no confidence vote has been orchestrated by the United States. The ambassador to Pakistan sent a telegram or a cipher saying that he had discussion with the Assistant Secretary of State, who's also the Assistant Secretary for Bangladesh. His name is Donald Lu. So Donald Lee had a meeting with him, and Donald Lu said, we are very unhappy with Mr. Khan. And if he stays, the way he is in charge of things in Pakistan, I think you can bet that we are going, how the Americans said, you can bet that we are not going to have an easy relationship. Normally, of course, they were very unhappy about the fact that Pakistan also didn't vote for action in Ukraine. We were one of the neutral countries. I think Bangladesh was also one of the neutral countries. So that's the background to it. Now, ever since he was ousted in 2022, there has been demands for having general elections. They said until unless the parliament completes its time. They did in October of last year, and then they fixed the time for the election on February 8th. So this is the background to it. Question number 2. What was that?
Can I ask a follow-up here?
I have a question as well.
Yeah, go ahead. Then, Kazi, you want to go
No,
first?
you go ahead. I'm trying to formulate my one.
You mentioned that Imran Khan was there was a lot of push and pull. He didn't have a clear majority, and he was ousted. How do you get ousted from the government with a vote of no confidence? I mean, he must have. What were the reasons that were given, and what were the real reasons? I mean, how could the prime minister so easily just get ousted from power?
You want me to respond immediately or take all the questions?
No, I think respond immediately,
Okay.
and then Kazi can.
Well, in a parliamentary democracy, you have at all times, you have to have a majority in the parliament. And at any point, a vote of no confidence can be called. So that is how you stay or you don't. Normally, vote of confidence are the 3 milestones in parliamentary democracy. And one of them is passing the budget. When you present the budget to the parliament, and if the budget is rejected, the government loses confidence and they have to leave. There'll be new elections, okay? There are 1 or 2 milestones like that. In this case, you can call for a vote of no confidence when you have a certain number of parliamentarians who sign a bill, okay? Let's say there are 200 parliamentarians and 100 of them are required to sign a bill asking for a vote of no confidence. Then the speaker asks them to come and vote for the government to show whether that government enjoys the confidence of the House. And that's what happened. Once they had cobbled together an opposition to him, which had 3 parties or 4 parties, which didn't want him in the parliament, they tabled this no confidence motion, passed it, and he was ousted.
So he was ousted. He had made so many enemies in those few years in power. I mean, this is one of the first times it's ever happened in Pakistani history that a sitting prime minister was ousted like that, right? Why do you think now was the time where in the past there were so many opportunities, but it never happened?
Well, actually, most of our unfortunate political history is that of the army ousting the elected prime ministers, either hanging them or arresting them or putting them in the jail. But this was the first time that it was a democratic process. There's nothing wrong with the process. Now, in terms of the timing, basically, there's always this opposition from the other side. And, it's like an impeachment in the United States, where even though the Democrats have got a clear majority, the Republicans will bring a bill of impeachment against the president, Biden, or something like that. So in a democracy, there's always a right to test the popularity of the person. And the electorate is represented in the parliament by the MPs. So the MPs decided at that particular time that first, his policies were lousy. And secondly, maybe they were egged on by external powers. I don't know. I think it's too lofty an accusation to put and to prove. And he's now in deep, deep trouble because of the fact, on the one hand, he wanted the Western powers to come and say that he was being persecuted. On the other hand, he went around dangling a cipher saying the United States is involved in the conspiracy to get me out of power. So you might have noticed that not a single Western power has spoken for him. Also because of his Russian stance.
Would it be more conclusive to say that it was more specifically because of his stance with Russia?
Well, he said that he was doing it out of national interest, that he was trying to go to Russia and build bridges with Russia and improve the relationship. Russia has been traditionally an ally of India, not of Pakistan.
Right.
For a long time, even during the British time, the Russians were considered very suspicious because they wanted to get an access to the warm sea. And this is called the Great Game, if you remember in those days. It was called the Great Game, where Russia was trying to, have an influence in this area.
This
The,
is post Cold War, or
yeah, no. This was way back in the 19th century, which was called the Great Game. They were trying to have influence in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, and then to the Arabian Sea. The Russians. Now, at this particular case, India had been importing a lot of oil from Russia at a very cheap price. And we don't have any oil in our country. And that was one of the reasons which prompted him to go. Plus, he also thought he could do some barter deals with Russia in terms of exports and imports. So, I have no reason to doubt his nationalistic interest for going that. But it was very unfortunate that it coincided with the invasion of Ukraine.
And also the cases that were put against him, they had no foundation. Well, they had foundation, but they wouldn't have that big of an impact on his career, and they're just making a big deal out of it. I think they're insignificant cases which shouldn't hamper his political aspirations.
Yeah, the point is that it's all a matter of relativity. The people before him were, of course, accused of much larger crimes and much larger raking off than what he did. But remember one thing, the point is that he came in as Mr. Clean. And when you come in that, then you have to be doubly conscious of the fact that you don't get involved in these kinds of things. Now, there was a case where he took the government gifts which were given to him as part of being a prime minister, and he bought them at a discounted price of 20% of the cost. Everybody's done it, and he keeps on saying that other people have also done it, and former prime ministers have taken these gifts and all that. Why is he being persecuted?
Exactly.
And I don't want to go into details of that because it's getting involved in the muckraking stuff and all that. But there were definitely bases of certain things that happened during his 3.5 years. There was a huge amount of money, about 150 or 300 million pounds, which were returned from UK to the government, and he handed it over to a private person to pay off his official debts. So it was a set-off. So there were cases. Some of it is ridiculous. I think the process of, these corruption cases and others are very difficult to prove. But the process has been very arbitrary. It was a mindset which had already been made that he'll have to be knocked off. He will not be a candidate, and that he has to be put in the slammer. I think these were premeditated decisions. So let's put it like that. There was smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was not. Yeah.
Okay. So I just have a follow-up question, and then Misha, you can ask your question. So this is actually related to some of those charges. His marriage to, what's her name? Bibi, something Bibi. Bushra Bibi. So it's interesting because I think she was originally his spiritual guide, and she apparently told him that he would have to marry her in order to be prime minister. And the whole thing is that Imran Khan is known to be very superstitious, apparently.
1 second. So can I just ask, who made him? Who suggested that he had to marry her?
She did.
I didn't get that part.
She did.
In order to be prime minister.
Him that, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I think that's why the no confidence thing came in, because they were like, oh my God, why would you believe that? But no, I'm kidding, but I'm sure that was part of it. But my question is that his, I don't know how to word this in a not offensive way, but his change in taste of women has also kind of become more conservative over the years, and he's done it in steps.
From
Jemima Goldsmith
okay.
to and I think the one in the middle was a Pakistani as well. Okay. But then Bushra Bibi is like a very well-known spiritual figure. So yeah, Uncle.
All this. The point is, I think we should just steer away from it because it's basically voodoo stuff and all this gossip and all about his wife. That's his personal choice. I think the questions are very well framed, and we can go back to question number 2, which was basically what is going to happen now that
But I find it very interesting. I'm sorry. But okay, we'll move on. But can't you say anything?
Yeah, can we talk about the goss a little bit?
Yeah,
well,
gossip.
let me just basically tell you that he actually had this woman is called a Pirni. She claims that she has spiritual powers. And he used to go to consult her about his political future. Now, he's not the only one. Mrs. Reagan did it. When Benazir Bhutto came to Dhaka, she went to see some kind of saint or somewhere out during its period.
Right.
All of these political people have got some superstition and some spiritual people, okay? Now, that spiritual connection turned into a deep romance, a love affair, okay? And then whether she suggested that he marry her or whatever, these are all rumors. That's why I don't want
What do you think happened?
Well, she probably predicted the future, that he would come over and we'd get married.
No, I think that he couldn't stand it that there would be a woman that he couldn't get with. So he was like, all right, I'm going to marry her.
So he married her, and she divorced her husband and married him. She has 3 grown-up daughters. Her husband was a collector of customs. He's from one of the traditional families. He's now come out and said that, after
he's
you
the
get
one who
divorced,
made the initial accusation, right?
He's now made an accusation that instead of waiting for 90 days after he divorced her, she married him before the 90 days. Now, that is just absolutely nonsense and ridiculous. I mean, what is a woman who's post-menopausal? I mean, what the hell will she do?
How do you know she's post-menopausal?
She is probably. She's 70 years old.
Probably.
I mean, why would she have to wait for 90 days? If she loves somebody, she's married, that's it. I mean, what difference does it make?
But the question, uncle, is couldn't she foresee his political career where all this stuff would happen?
You see, this is like Mrs. I mean, let's make it a little bit international. You remember Eva Peron,
right?
Okay, Eva Peron had a messianic kind of a spiritual kind of control over Peron.
Achha, okay.
So, I mean, there have been people in history and politics who have done this before, and women, either wives or something. Aquino in Philippines, her father or husband or somebody was assassinated at the airport and she took over. And that's happened here also in your country. People do have women acquire. Yeah. So it's a dynastic kind of thing. So now the point is that she had the quote unquote undue influence over her husband. And as a result of that, she had the governor of Punjab, the chief minister of Punjab, a total idiot, a village idiot, appointed as the chief minister, who she manipulated, quote unquote, allegedly manipulated, and they were in cahoots. She and her friend Farah Gogi and this guy were in cahoots, making lots of money. So
you just had to poke the bear a little for all the gossip to come out.
This is the good stuff, the real good stuff.
This is what we're looking for.
Okay, anyway, I think this is the more serious forum than that. Anyway, so she is basically accused of putting one of the most incompetent people in the largest province with the largest number of population and the largest number of resources to manage. And people from his own party were very dismayed, and they kept on telling him to remove this guy. But she had convinced, apparently, again, quote unquote, her husband, that if this guy is removed, your government will fall.
So by her husband, you mean Imran Khan, not her own?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Okay.
I see. So he appointed the chief minister of Pakistan, of Punjab, the guy, I've heard about this guy actually.
See, Imran, I think the lesson here is that Imran had developed, when Imran came to power, the media specialists came, the social media specialists. And they were backed by the army specialists. And they asked 3 questions, mind you now. They asked him, what are the things which resonate with the people? What resonates with the people? They said they are against corruption, they are anti-America, and they're against corruption, they're anti-America, and they are very religious.
Religious, yes.
They're pro-religious. They're against Islamophobia. They said, good, we'll keep on drilling these three messages. And that is the basis of his populism. He's very anti-American. He was against the drone attacks. So he swept the power completely in the frontier near Afghanistan.
Okay. So victory points, those three were his victory points, essentially.
Yeah. No, the basis of his populism.
Basis of his populism. Okay.
Anti-Americanism, anti-corruption, and religiosity.
Right.
Which is again so different from maybe not the anti-Americanism, but definitely the image that he had portrayed before was much more
he's
of a,
he's a born-again Muslim. He's a born-again. Because he now carries a very beads. He wears salwar kameez. He goes and speaks on the public forums around the world against Islamophobia. So he's very popular on that front. I mean, people love him. Every speech he makes, he says, "Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in." To God we pray and to him we rely. People love it. People love it.
Yeah. He's also I think he's got that charm and that charisma.
Yeah.
Because for him to be able to relate to, the everyday man in Pakistan, being who he is, an Oxford graduate, a cricketer from a well-off family, and he even looks very, Western. He doesn't even look Pakistani. I mean, he looks actually white. You could mistake him for white. So the fact that he's been able to, channel something and connect to the everyday man, it's
one of his most long-lasting and everlasting contributions will be that he's punctured the ego of the army completely. He's taken them off. He came with them, but he turned into a Frankenstein.
So actually, this connects to our next question, which is what's going to happen now with with the situation with the parties, the independent parties, Imran Khan's parties.
So the
reaction of the opposition. I'd like to know.
I'll run through certain points. The PTI independence. The party has been the party does not exist. His party does not exist.
They were banned. The party has been banned also.
They were not banned. This is another background. So that's why I said it's a very complex kind of thing. They did not have intra-party elections, which was a requirement for a party to be a party. Okay? They didn't have. And as a result of that, the election commission knocked them off, said that you are not a party. You didn't have election. Other parties have also not had them. Or they've had
another technicality basically
on that basis of technicality, they knocked off the party and took their symbol of their cricket bat, took it away, and said your people can stand under your banner, but they will be called independents. So he has bagged 100 independents. The other party, the real party, the existing party, bagged 78, and the third one 56. So none of them have 169 votes to make a government. So now the music is playing and the dance is going on. Okay? Coalitions are being formed. Coalitions of the like-minded, coalitions of sleeping with the devil, and coalitions of various sorts.
So they haven't
who's the devil?
Well, the coalition with the devil could be for a progressive party like People Party would be the Islamic parties. How can a progressive party go to bed with an Islamic party? But now Imran Khan has teamed up with an Islamic party.
So is this is what I don't understand. Is the PTI the Islamic party now in Pakistan?
It's not, but it's formed. It is till today in the morning, they formed a coalition with a very small party which has got only 3 seats. They have to belong to a party to sit into the government.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
You cannot form as an independent, you cannot form a government.
So you need to be associated with the party at least.
Not only associated, in a formal coalition with them. And then inform the election commission that I formed a coalition with Jamaat-e-Islami or with the Sunni party.
Right.
Party over there. And they've done that.
No, I was just saying that. So they are in the process of legitimacy. The technicality that they were, the reason that they were, classed as independent. Now they're trying to get on the right track of becoming forming a coalition with another party.
By forming a coalition and joining a party, they also get entitled to reserve seats for women and for minorities. And that's how they reached the 169 figure.
Who has reached? They've already reached. Who has reached?
No, they have not reached. They've not.
None of them. The ruling party has to reach. That's the.
So there are, let's say there's 70. Muslim League has 75, and they've teamed up with People's Party. So that's.
But they still don't have enough, right?
Yes, they don't
even together.
They got 17 from NQM in Karachi. And now they'll also banking on their reserve seats. So they will make 169.
Oh.
So it's done. The deal is done. And there's no way the PTI...
Now we have to see whether the PTI claims that they have the largest number of independents, although some of their independents have already jumped ship and they've gone with the other party. So we don't know. The parliament is supposed to meet on the 29th. According to a parliamentary democracy, the president of the country will ask the leading party to try to form a government. If they fail, he will call the other people.
He will call the other party or the other coalition or whatever.
Yeah, the other coalition.
But then there's not much chance that there won't be a government formed by, you said the PPP or the Muslim League, who has the larger...
they're saying we are willing to sit in the opposition. If this guy can show strength in the parliament, let him show the strength. If he can muster 169 votes, good luck to him, we'll be in the opposition.
They're willing to let Imran Khan form the government.
Well, that's what they're saying, but behind the scenes, they're trying to desperately to stay in power.
So the Muslim League traditionally was the party against the PPP. They were on opposing sides, right?
Yes.
In now Pakistani politics. And Muslim League was more conservative, PPP was more... but now both of them are together against Imran Khan.
It was a two-party system before Imran Khan came in,
now
right?
they're three. They were small parties, but not very significant.
Yeah, right.
So he must have really made some enemies to make these traditional enemies into bedfellows, right? I mean, is it because, like, I don't want to draw comparisons, but one could compare him to Trump in a way that he's an outsider and a populist who's come in and he makes, let's say, the traditional political parties very uncomfortable. Is that a similar thing going on here?
The point is that Imran Khan represents the youth vote. All 65% of the people in Pakistan are less than 35 years old. And he represents the youth vote. And he represents the youth vote who are savvy in social media. So the memes that they are sending and the social media, they are warriors of social media, have completely, taken over the electorate. Because the Muslim League is very old-fashioned. Only Maryam Nawaz, who's the daughter of Nawaz Sharif, have been crying hoarse and saying, for God's sake, let's develop a social media platform. And they don't have an effective platform. But Imran Khan, they bombarded the whole country and they send these pictures which give him an outside's role and demonize his opposition totally. So that we will come to when lessons drawn. I'm going to come to that when we talk about lessons drawn for other countries or for democracy in general.
Okay. That's actually our next question. So how does this affect, it's part of our next. How does this affect the rest of South Asia? How does it set the tone for politics in South Asia?
Sorry, may I just interrupt you?
Sure.
I wanted to ask the conclusion to this. What do you think is actually going to happen? Is the opposition going to form? I mean, is the MP Muslim League and the PPP going to form the government, or you think Imran Khan will pull it out?
The most likely is the coalition between the Muslim League and People's Party and MQM, the three parties. And the dark horse is the PTI with the Islamic Party. And that's what politics is all about. Till the last moment, there'll be people changing sides and everything. There's a lot of horse trading taking place. Independents have the right to join any party they want to. They are not under party discipline. They're not under the party discipline. Although PTI is claiming that we've got them to write affidavits that they'll be loyal to us, but you can't hold an independent to it. So if somebody gives them 2 crore taka, they'll go.
Okay.
So who knows, in the next few days, 20 people might break away from Imran and goes to the other side. Okay.
Why don't you just tell us what the lessons are?
Okay,
Because I think that would be a nice segue.
I'll say it in bullet points. First of all, dynasty politics is out. Dynasty politics is Nawaz Sharif and the Bhuttos have been for 4 times, 5 times. At least in Pakistan, it's out. Most of the countries, Gandhis have lost in India, they're out. So dynastic politics, that's one lesson, the dynastic politics and dinosaurs are out.
Right.
Number 2, social media is going to be the driver and the determinant of politics. The most effective tool. Number 3, the youth of the country want to take charge and they want to see younger faces. So octogenarians and septuagenarians are going to lose, except in China.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Number 4, the power to vote is the most important power, and voting with your feet by walking away is a terrible, terrible mistake. Because just having people in the opposition is what democracy is about, who can question, who can bring accountability. Even if you're sitting in the opposition, you can be extremely useful for nation building and fathers. This is one lesson which is clear, that Imran Khan, by abdicating the parliament, where he had 140 votes, he just resigned and he thought he'll come on a tsunami of popularity. He didn't. Had he been in the parliament, he would have really, really given them a tough time. And I think parties which abdicate their right to vote are out. They are doing a disservice. So these are the lessons.
Well, can you repeat the one before the second last point?
The one was that the youth vote mattered.
Yeah.
Because you have to look at the population. If the population, 65% of your population is below 35, their entire orientation is different from people who are retirees and who want the status quo. The young people don't want state. They want jobs. They want opening up. They want liberal ideas. They don't want to get involved in the downtrodden Baradri system where you're a chatta, you are a this, you are that. You know, we have a lot of that in Punjab. And you vote by who you are, by who your family is. It's out. Even within families now, there have been cracks because of the young people.
Yeah. Misha, you had something?
Yeah, if that's the case, Uncle, that the youth vote is so popular and so powerful and it's going to go against the status quo, then how is Imran Khan languishing in jail while the old guard is forming a coalition government to continue the status quo? I mean, and if you look around the world, I don't think anywhere you see that the youth vote has yet been able to, and look at the US, you've got the 2 oldest presidential candidates ever. And so where is this change you're talking about, where the young face is going to come in? You don't see it. I don't see it in any country that we're talking about.
No, I mean, you've had prime ministers who are 29 years old in the Scandinavian countries. You've had a Finnish prime minister who's been like that. There are people now, much younger people. In Ireland, you have the first gay prime minister. You have people in other countries who are representing the youth and the new ideas. I mean, could you imagine that in a country like in Holland, There would be gay in a Sri Lankan immigrant who's the prime minister of the country. Could you imagine that a country like Ireland has voted for abortion? I mean, the youth are having an impact in the thinking of them. I mean, the old
But
people.
these are all European countries, right? Where the situation is very, very different than, let's say, in South Asia or in Asia. Or what do you think?
No, I think that you will see that the elections which are coming up in Sri Lanka, because they're so well educated and all that, there will be a backlash there. It's now due this year, sometime in November, I think October, November. You'll see that there will be a change. Now, Modi has got on to a completely different idea of religious fundamentalism and all, but I bet you that is going to run out, because India too has a youth bulge and a huge unemployment in India.
So that's great that you brought that up. We've been discussing that ourselves, the rise of, let's say, Hindu populism in India. And it seems that he's really caught on to something and been able to take control of the country through this idea. Do you think that you're saying that there might be an end to it? Because we have been feeling very almost hopeless in many ways, that the world is becoming so, polarized on religious lines, and India is a great example of that. Do you think that the youth in India are actually going to vote against, this?
I think this is a completely different kind of a subject matter which needs to be discussed separately. But let me just quickly give you one small bit over here. My thinking of it is that India is a highly complex country, and northern India is a cow belt. Okay, that's where the fundos are. You go to South India, it's different. You go to Bengal, it's quite different. So let's not overrate what's happening when we see these cases. With the media and everything, things get amplified and all. Certainly, he's riding the crest of religiosity, and he has put his pedal full. He's pressed the pedal fully on RRS philosophy of India being a Hindu state. But they will have to amend the constitution, because India is basically a secular country as far as the constitution is concerned. So there might be a backlash. The problem is that the Congress is really mired in dynastic politics and what's his guy's name? I mean, Rahul and these people. So I think they'll have to find some fresh faces. They'll have to find some fresh people to fight it out. So it's not all over. Yes, they are. At this point in time, there's a lot of fundamentalism, but the right-wing religious card is being played not only in India. In Hungary, it's being played. It's being played in Poland. It's played even in Europe and others countries. More and more countries are turning to be towards the right wing. And
so don't you think that's a trend?
That's actually.
Yeah, go ahead, Tushi. Go ahead.
Sorry, what I was going to say is that, like, in our previous discussions, we have talked about how it seems like the world is becoming more polarized, and also the right wing is kind of taking over. And I feel like we also talked about how civilizations have to go through a period of unrest like this, where almost like a population is in power for a certain number of years, and then the civilizations change and whatever. But I think the main thing is, I guess, have you lived through? I mean, you've lived through wars, and you've lived through lots of different upheavals and political issues. So my question is that, like, what we're seeing is like, oh my God, this means, the world is coming to an end. It's very depressing. But I guess your perspective is more, you've seen a lot more of this. So you've seen kind of this roller coaster and the eventual leveling out, right? Is that what you're saying in some ways?
You see, the thing is that think about one thing, that the right-wing parties or the religious parties, they have a very potent message. They have a definite message to give, right? That this is how the evangelists in the United States will do, or the right-wing parties over there. For instance, now in Europe, the big thing is, one could not have even imagined this woman in Italy, who's a member of the fascist party. She's the prime minister. Why? Because they have latched on, like Modi, to anti-immigrants and anti-Islam. That is their platform. And it resonates with the people. It's very populist, and it does. Now, in a country which as liberal as Holland, Geert Wilders has 137 votes, and he's trying desperately to form a coalition over there. But he's anti-Muslim and he's anti-immigrant. I don't know if there will be another wave. I think the pendulum normally swings one way or the other. But I think at this moment, the religious parties and anti-immigrant parties, because of the situation, the pendulum is in their favor and they are on the ascendancy at the moment. But there will be a time, I think, when things will swing back into more reality later on. So one need not be totally. The problem is that the so-called liberal people, being a liberal means that you are willing to accept all forms of opinion. But being a conservative means you have your own opinion. You're not open to other opinions. And our liberalism and our openness will be our enemy. We are basically willing to accept the different views. We are willing to accept that they also have an opinion. But they say it's my way or the highway.
I have a question regarding, well, moreover, a statement. I think with regards to the Indian population, even though with the right-wing extremists, I mean, with Modi and their views, their religious views with regards to Muslims in the country and what they're doing with mosques and things like that, I think the fact that there's a younger generation in India as well, and they also have deciphered what's right and what's wrong. And this can be seen with the fact Israel, they had a visit and they sold a whole bunch of drones. I forgot the name to Israel. But at the same time, that thing was done. But at the same time, while they're trying to ship at the port, the workers, the Indian workers, they realize that this is not something that's unfair, and they're causing the strike and preventing the weapons being shipped out from the Indian ports. So this also just proves that, there are still people who believe in the secular system in India, and they still believe that, Muslims have rights, Hindus have rights, all the other religions have rights, except for the Modi party. That's the impression.
I would say that a lot of people have a different viewpoint, but they're afraid to say it. And so I think India is also, it's very dangerous to say anti-Modi stuff in India, I'm assuming. So I think that even if people do feel differently, they are scared to speak out.
Yeah, it's, I don't want to, I would hesitate to use the word fascism or a fascist state, but it certainly is a state where people do react.
What was it you said? Totalitarian, right, Misha?
Yeah, it's an autocracy. It's an authoritarian government. It's something that you have to toe their line, or you have to be just shut up.
But isn't that now every government in the world? I feel like, well, the United States. If you look at the United States, if you look at governments in South Asia, Southeast Asia, even Southeast Asia, they're all becoming more autocratic. So is that a backlash against democracy? And why do you think that backlash is occurring now?
Can I just add to what you just said, Misha, so that Uncle can respond together? The other fact is you said that there was a backlash of the what was it? The fallen the youth population. Is that what you're saying, or?
No,
I'm saying
when
who,
you
me or him?
The question about democracy, I think. To an old person like me, I think the whole definition of democracy has changed. We are witnessing something else. Democracy is a pluralistic situation where there are more than one or two parties contesting. It's a contestable arena where conflicting and contesting opinions are respected. There's bipartisan cooperation amongst people. But today's democracy is a very raw and very basic democracy where winner takes it all.
But how long do you think the fact that, you mentioned that the youth are slowly rising up, they're being more active, and they're trying to make a change or bring some sort of impact in the political scenario, how how long will this take for
Well,
us to see change? This is definitely
let's
not in our
let's
generation.
take the example of the United States.
Yeah.
There have been two mini elections, Hampshire, New Hampshire, and where was the other one? Iowa.
Yeah.
It has now become absolutely apparent that the youth did not vote for Trump in those primaries.
Right.
So you think that a good politician who's got his ears tuned in, he would not be conscious of the fact
Yes.
it was the youth who went against him in these.
Mm.
And the youth are protesting against Biden now in the United States within the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So the changes are, look at the UK.
But the youth doesn't vote in the US. That's the problem. It's the old people who vote, and that's who.
No, the election of Obama's election was won because the youth vote turned out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's because there wasn't Obama, somebody for them to really care about. I mean, if there's two candidates they don't care about, they'll just sit home and do nothing. You know,
I don't think Joe Biden is doing himself any favors at this point, and I don't think anyone who has the vote will vote at this point. Many people are going to just
not only the Muslim vote.
Yeah.
He's not only losing the Muslim vote, he's losing the youth's vote also in the US.
Yeah. Yes.
Uncle, what's the political situation in Pakistan with, I mean, say, for example, we have, if you compare it to the West, you have the Democrats who are, I mean, very liberal, and, you know, they teach about unicorn. It's okay to be transgender or unicorn or a unicorn in their schools and everything. And then on the other side, you have the right-wing extremists who use religion. I think religion is one of the biggest platforms that they use to basically control elections, to control power and things like that. So in this case, I mean, which is the case for Pakistan right now? I mean, is it more based on the fact that it is going towards the right wing? Whichever
both in Pakistan and in Bangladesh, I've noticed, and I've been associated with both countries for the last 40 years, 30 years, because I served here also. There is a wave of religiosity. Definitely, there's a wave of religiosity in the way, outwardly, externally, in the way people dress, in the way hijab has come there, and it's become so very kind of ubiquitous everywhere. Everyone is doing some kind of niqab or hijab or burqa or whatever it is in both. And there is also at every turn and every twist, a religious term like Jazakallah, Mashallah, Inshallah, all of these are mentioned. So the religiosity definitely is on the increase. Now, it may be equated with the economic crisis that people face, because religion is, don't forget, is the fact that when you lose hope in the system, or you lose hope in the capitalist system, you tend to say, well, this is our fate. You become more fatalistic. You say, well, this is what Allah meant. This is what God means. You know, we have bad luck. This is the way it is going to be. It gives you a buffer to be able to take the shocks. And
I think also another thing I was thinking is that it's also that the rejection from the West has made people turn inwards and say, okay, if we're not going to, you know, have that, you know, alignment with the West, or if we're not going to be respected in that society, then I will just make my home in my own society. It is also a response to, you know, the rejection that a lot of us feel from the West, that, you know, we've made our lives, we've tried to, you know, live our lives so that, you know, we're balanced, right? But there's no stopping that.
A lot of the educated women and a lot of the educated people, I mean, they are making a political statement by putting a scarf on their head. They are saying, okay, damn it, you have no right to tell us how we have to let our hair be shown or our nails be painted. We are going to be, I mean, they are exercising their right of being themselves and their right of being democratic and being free. I mean, in a way, it's a protest. A lot of them perhaps underneath may not be that conservative. They may not be that religious, but they're doing it as a matter of protest.
And they're actually doing this in small micro communities and instilling those values into larger communities so that it spreads.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, there's always a snowball effect, because if somebody, one or two people in your family is doing that, and you feel left out, or there's a feeling of feeling left out, and then you also conform, and then it snowballs.
Yeah.
So it may not be just an indicator of religiosity, but I think in a way it is. People have become more conscious of the fact that we are a community apart, and we are under siege. The Muslims are under siege all over the world. They were. It's now become much more tolerant. The world has become much more tolerant about it. I mean, but you don't have Merkels in this world anymore. I mean, she was bold enough to get 1 million immigrants come into Germany. Nobody is willing to do that anymore, because we've lost all those good, really heavyweight politicians who were philosophic, who were thoughtful, who could take the right decisions.
I mean, carry on from your German example. Sorry, were you going to ask something, Tushi? No, I mean, following on from your German example, we talked about this in the last, I think a few podcasts ago, and the fact that, I mean, at that point, previously Germany was very sensitive and very appreciative. I mean, welcomed immigrants and increased their population. They're allowed diverse cultures to come into their communities, into their country, and everything. But I've noticed that recently, we talked about this, recently they changed their stance, where we basically, where they said that citizens who want to become German would have to acknowledge Israel, and then they'd get German citizenship. But in that case, if, say, for example, someone like me, if I have a Bangladeshi passport, I'm going to Germany and I'm applying for immigration and everything, and in order for me to acknowledge Israel to get the German passport, I would have to. I mean, my original Bangladeshi passport says that we don't recognize Israel. So isn't that kind of forcing people into a corner whereby for your future, for your increasing quality of life, or
I mean, the point is that this is the first time I've heard about it, that this is one of the requirements for immigration to Germany. I didn't know. But let me just say that the point is that when you choose to immigrate to a country, you have to abide by the laws of that country and the culture of that country.
Right.
Like if you find a woman in a bikini on the streets of Karachi, she'll either be lynched or somebody will run away with her, or whatever will happen. So, I've seen foreigners, they wear shalwar kameez, they take an orna, stuff like that, and they respect the culture of the place. Similarly, when you go to their country, you have to. Now, the point is that in Bangladesh, even when this is my personal experience, when I saw on the on the airport road leading through Badda, I saw a lot of Africans there, Nigerians, Cameroonians, etc. I think they live there. Now, I think they're all football coaches. They come for football training or football playing or whatever. But, nobody has told the public in Bangladesh not to call them Negroes. Our people at home were saying, yes, a lot of Negroes live over there.
Yes.
So, I mean, the point is that you have to be culturally sensitive to this thing. And are we culturally sensitive if in our country about 10,000 of these Africans land up here for immigration? I think we'll have a similar problem like those people are having in their country.
True. It's. They have. It seems right now that the last year and a half. I mean, last 6 months till now, as all I personally feel. I know Misha and Tushi and Zishan. They don't have the same opinion. Similar but not the same. But I personally think that this is because it's been about religion all this time, and but then recently I just read this article whereby they said that this was planned for a while, and whenever a right-wing party uses religion as a platform, it's usually because their political stance is in order to control the population and to make sure that, like you said, they abide by the conservative rules, which are our rules or the highway. That's how it is. So I think the whole world has kind of is moving into that kind of stance, even if they're Democrats or liberals, but I feel as though that they're moving into that kind of stance.
Yeah, because religion is a highly emotional thing. And the point is that with anybody, for example, I felt that, Bangladeshis are very liberal people and they may be religious in many senses and they may not protest against, religion as such, because nobody who has that religion as his faith will protest or say things against it. Very rarely.
Absolutely.
But nevertheless, in Bangladesh, what I admire most is that people do draw the line. Yes. And they say, well, this is the religion, this is our personal life, this is our religion.
Yeah.
We'll go to the mosque, we'll say our prayers, we'll do Shabbarat, we'll do Eid, we'll do everything, but we won't let it spill over into our personal lives.
Right.
But in other countries, it crosses that line.
So actually, let's just start to wrap up because I wanted to talk a little about Gaza before we finished. I think it's day 132 at this point, or something ridiculous like that. 30,000 people have been killed in Gaza. I'm seeing a lot of Western countries backpedal a little. I don't know whether you guys have seen that or noticed that.
That's good. No, I was just going to say that using your term, backpedaling, I personally feel that the reason that they're backpedaling is simply because of the fact that after 132 days, they're backpedaling on the proof that they've asked Israel to produce. That's all that it is. And after 132 days, when they realize, you know what, right from the beginning, we blindly supported the Israelis and we took their word for it that, yes, this is what happened, the 40-beheaded babies and all that kind of stuff. And then right after that, 130 days later, they are still not able to produce any kind of proof. And that's why now the Western nations, Canada, the UK, Australia, they're saying that, oh, well, maybe because of insufficient proof, that's the reason that they're backpedaling. And whatever other excuse that they give is, I personally feel, is invalid. It doesn't make any kind of sense. I mean, if you're okay with 40 beheaded babies, not okay with 40 beheaded babies, but you're okay with, 8,000 or 10,000 babies being killed, that just shows that whether even if you backpedal or you don't, it doesn't, your opinion, it should be mute. It doesn't justify you. It makes you look silly because you jumped the gun just because Israel said that this happened without any kind of proof. And then at the end of the day, now you're backpedaling because after 3 months, they can't provide the simplest proof. So at the end, yes, I'm British by birth, right? I think how the British people are reacting and how the British government is reacting is shameful. It's very shameful. And doesn't matter, how white you are. Say you have Middle America. Similarly, we have Middle England, which is the middle of North. These are the people that decided that, no, we don't need Europe. We are going to get out of Brexit and all that kind of stuff. But even these people right now are sympathizing with the fact that, come on, man, there's 10,000 babies that have died. And you're still your decisions, our country's decisions, our reputation is based on the fact that the Israelis said that there was 40 beheaded babies, and there's no proof of it. So now they have to backpedal. And I personally don't think that whatever happens on that side or whatever conclusions or whatever opinions they give, it's invalid. I don't think they make sense. I think it's biased. I think it's they have their own personal agendas, and it's not humanitarian in any way. Very simple.
Well, the question I've been wrestling with for a long time now, and I'd like to ask your forum or your three of you, why aren't the Arab countries surrounding Israel and Palestine, why aren't they intervening or why aren't they supporting? Why do you think? What's the reason which is stopping them?
I have a conspiracy theory.
Just in very short term.
Yeah, it's because
money.
their
I think it's
economies.
money.
They don't have the militaries to take on the US or Israel. Israel in that they've tried it countless times and been completely destroyed, number one. Number two, if they did any economic sanctions against the US or US especially, it would harm them more than it would harm the US because the US has other sources of oil and gas. And then I think those are the two major reasons, right?
Anybody else?
I think it's also sorry. Yeah, Con?
No, is there any? I at least that's what I think.
It is for the resources, don't you think?
No, not a single monarchy wants the Palestinians to win, because if they do, their turn is next.
Mm.
Do you want a revolution to succeed? Do you want a revolution to succeed? No.
Not if you're the oppressor.
If in Iran or in Palestine the revolution succeeds, it means the next ones are going to be the UAE and all the monarchies, the Jordanian king and others.
Yeah.
It is a question of survival for them, personal survival, not only trade, not anything else.
But I think maybe that was true 20 years ago, but I think these Saudis and the Emiratis have made a lot of strides in giving their populations more freedom than they had before, at least. I don't know. Everybody's very comfortable in Saudi and in the Emirates now, right?
Well,
are they going to overthrow the government?
No, but didn't the Saudi just join? Who did they join? They formed a coalition with Iran.
I was going to ask, Uncle, actually, whether you see a difference between this time, and you've been through a lot of these uprisings or let's say conflicts between Gaza or between Palestine and Israel. What do you think? Is there a difference this time, or do you think it's just going to go back to the status quo?
Well, actually, the US and some Western powers are at least paying lip service to the fact that there will be two-state solution. The Palestinian, the Israelis, at least on the right-wing parties, which is led by Netanyahu, believes that there should be no two-state solution and that the Palestine should live as an extended territory of Israel. Never has this thing happened before. Never has this thing. Always the idea of a truncated Palestine or a much more reduced Palestine was always under discussion. Whether they go back to the 67 borders or they go back to the 47 borders, that was always disputed. But the question of annihilating and obliterating Palestine as a state is now on the front burner of Netanyahu and the parties.
And do
you think they'll succeed?
Sorry.
Well, I mean, they probably in their own minds, they think they are going to succeed. But the US is saying quite a lot again and again that they want a two-state solution. They might have a pretty little state, a banana republic, which they call Palestine. And they'd say, this is where the original inhabitants of this place used to live.
So, I mean, since they were majority of them were fled. They were, well, according to the Balfour deed or the agreement, they sold technically Palestine to the Jewish people. That's essentially what it is. And but my question is that why are the Westerners and the Europeans insisting that, I mean, the other countries around Israel should take in the Palestinians, as opposed to why not asking the Israelis to go be taken in by the Europeans? I mean, majority of the people there are. Yeah, sorry.
I would say that is a kind of a philosophic question, which goes back to the founding of the Israeli state, that why did the Europeans not take them in, and why don't they have so much land and they have so much resources, they can always settle them. Again, the whole thing is that there is this whole question of who did the land belong to? We were here, we were the original inhabitants when Adam arrived in this earth. We were already roaming around in those areas. Then the Arabs came, they took it. So, I mean, history is being contorted, history is being rewritten, history is being written from the view of the victor, not the oppressed. To make one personal statement before we close today is that actually I'm here on a vacation with my wife, and I happen to be here. The topic related to my country, which I know and I follow very much. So it was not arranged as such, and Tushi gave me this opportunity for which I'm very grateful. And I hope that I tried
we're
to.
grateful.
Yeah, and I hope I was objective enough to state the facts.
You were very objective. In fact, we were not objective. But yeah, Uncle, thank you.
So it wasn't pre-planned or anything. It was just that I happened to be here, and it's coincided with the elections in Pakistan.
Say something else. I'd like to thank Uncle as well. It was such a informative podcast. I think this particular one, and I don't think we had any moments where we were quiet or didn't have anything to discuss. It was very informative, and I personally don't follow a lot of Pakistan politics and the history of Pakistani politics and everything, but I found it very intriguing, and I kind of see the correlation that I can, with Bangladesh and things like that. You know, we're on the same path and all that. So thank you very much, Uncle.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having. Thank you for having. Bye bye.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, tomorrow is 21 February, so that means 21st February. For those of you who don't know, when Bangladesh was East Pakistan, the Pakistani government had declared English and Urdu only to be the national languages of Pakistan at the time. What followed was a response by the East Pakistanis where they staged protests and they fought for their their right to speak their mother tongue, and it's now known as International Mother Language Day. Sorry, my dog is trying to come in. So I just wanted to wish everyone happy Ekushe. And the irony of us speaking English on this podcast does not mean that we don't love our mother tongue and we don't respect the fight and the struggles that they went through in order for us to speak freely. So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you, Kazi and Misha, for being here. I really miss Zishan. So everybody, we'll see you for the next episode. We hope you enjoyed this. We miss Zishan, but he will be back. All right. Take care. Bye.